40% of the land, or 40 million acres of California, is forested. Alaska is the only state with more trees. What comes to mind when you think of California's forest?
Oh, that's where I like to go camping.
Of course, they supply the lumber that we all need, and we perhaps decry the felling of trees, but at the same time we turn right around and start using lumber products.
I think of them as sanctuaries for people to leave their urban environment and to renew themselves.
They provide places for recreation. I imagine they're a huge resource in wildlife.
Without our forests and our trees, I think it would be a very barren land.
What kinds of trees do you find in California forests?
Conifers and pines, and that's what I mostly remember seeing.
Of course, the giant sequoia, the redwoods.
Spruces, pines, redwoods.
An abundance of redwood trees, that's my impression.
Fir, maybe?
Those are all softwood species. Do you think there are any hardwoods in California? If so, where do you think they are?
I don't really think of California as having a lot of like hardwood forests, other than the scrub oak and the rolling hill. I wouldn't think so. No. Mostly, I think of the softer pine trees and firs and redwoods.
In the Sacramento Valley.
In the foothill areas?
I'd say in the valleys.
I would guess not too many hardwood trees, or we wouldn't have the necessity to import teak and other hardwoods from Burma.
Hi, I'm Paul Fotenauer of the University of California, your host for a program that takes a close look at a part of California forests that is often misunderstood. It's no secret that these forests are a very valuable asset and often a source of controversy. When you look at a California forest, you see the majestic conifers, the redwoods, Douglas fir, and the pines. California's forests provide approximately half of the state's lumber needs, with 70% being used in new home construction or repair and remodeling of existing homes. The Pacific Northwest is the nation's leading lumber production region. California is consistently one of the leading lumber producers. In 1994, it was third in the nation, with 300 million cubic feet of lumber produced, which is about 11% of the nation's total lumber production. But California's forest is not just conifers. If you look closer, you will also see a substantial hardwood resource. The conifers, often referred to as evergreens or softwoods, are the trees that have needles and seed cones. The hardwoods are the trees with broad leaves, which often fall off during the winter. In other words, they are deciduous, and their seeds are usually encased in a fruit or nut. Hardwoods make up about 15% of the total volume of trees in timberland forests. You don't readily see the hardwoods in a mature forest because they are generally not as tall as their neighboring conifers, but they are there. When most people think of hardwoods in California, they think of the majestic oaks and the vast rangelands and valley regions. If these trees are added to the inventory totals, then the percentage of hardwoods in the state increases to about 25%. Some of the native hardwood resource is contributing to local forest-based economies, but by all accounts, it is a vastly underutilized resource. Only a small fraction, less than 0.5% of the timberland hardwood resource, is being harvested. Recent estimates indicate that the growth of hardwood trees has increased the volume of hardwood timber by 10% over the last 10 years, in spite of many efforts to eradicate them from the softwood timber stands. Clearly, there is room to increase the harvesting of hardwoods and still maintain a sustainable level of hardwood resource in the state. Of the hardwoods being harvested in California, some are for lumber, but much more is being ground into chips to make paper. burned is firewood. In 1993, more than 30 million cubic feet of hardwoods went into pulp, boiler fuel, and firewood, but only about 500,000 went into lumber. There is also a small segment of the hardwood harvest that is being exported to other countries, primarily Japan and Europe. In 1993, an estimated 1 million cubic feet of hardwood logs were shipped from California. Although export is an important component of the industry, the removal of high-grade logs from California before any value is added through manufacturing provides very little of the economic potential this resource has to offer.
There are many higher value uses for the California native hardwoods. Of the over 30 species we have in the state, 3 of these have the potential to meet a major part of the lumber demand in California. There's California black oak, tan oak, and Pacific madrone. These 3 species combined make up over 50% of the total hardwood resource in the state. When we've looked at the properties of these woods and the machining characteristics of them and combined that with some of the experience of local craftsmen, it's clear that these woods have the potential to make some very nice high-value products.
Okay, here at Parlin Fork Conservation Camp, we've been cutting and drying California hardwoods for about 3 years now. We've got our sawmill operation. We sell our lumber to other camps that have cabinet shops. In those cabinet shops, they build furniture, cabinets, and other hardwood items for use in state offices throughout California. Here you see this shed that we've designed here to dry the lumber, keep it out of the weather, and allow for full air movement through the stacks of lumber. We'll dry it in here for 6 to 8 months, get the moisture content down to about 18 to 20%, and then we'll move it into our dry kiln, and it's a dehumidification kiln, holds about 2,000 board feet of lumber, and it takes anywhere from 15 to 20 days in it, with those moisture contents to get it down to a usable 6 to 8%.
Many of these native California hardwood species actually are harder and denser than comparable eastern species. This results in better finishing qualities and machining characteristics. This conference room we have here at the Forest Products Lab actually shows some very good uses for the native hardwoods. Our paneling here is a tongue and groove paneling made from Pacific madrone. You can notice the nice dark rich color to it and the unique grain character to the wood. We also have tan oak that's used to make the flooring. Tests we've done here at our laboratory show that the hardness value of these woods are higher than the hardness values of eastern oak. This floor, for example, made out of tan oak is about 10 to 20% harder than the wood from an eastern red oak species. This floor will resist marring and scratching easier because of the higher hardness value. And conference tables are made out of California black oak. Not only can we use our native hardwoods to make these products, but it makes sense to do it. It's good for the forest and it's good for the economy.
The region in California that I represent includes the counties of Sierra, Nevada, Placer, and El Dorado. And within those 4 counties, within the last 5 years, we've had 4 sawmills close, impacting 350 people, 350 jobs lost. But also within that same region, actually within a 60-mile radius of the Auburn area, we have over 200 million cubic feet of California black oak available. Many sawmills have closed down in recent years because logging restrictions on the national forests made it impossible to supply enough logs to keep them open. There was a 60% decrease in the amount of timber sold in California from 1993 to 1994. Each time a sawmill is closed, a legion of people lose their jobs, including loggers, truckers, mill workers, salespeople, and many service sector businesses. In most counties, that is a big hit on employment. Hardwoods would have the potential to ease some of the economic pain the slowdown in the softwood industry has created. We have hardwoods. We know how to use them. If there is a market for them, we can put many of these people back to work.
California is one of the major consumer markets for goods made from hardwoods, including flooring, furniture, and cabinets. Because of the large consumer demand, California is also a major producer of these goods. Furniture manufacturers alone use an estimated 9 million cubic feet of hardwood lumber every year. But less than 5% comes from California's forests. 80% comes from the hardwood forests of the eastern, Midwest, and southern regions of the United States, and about 10% is imported from the tropical forest regions.
We sell high-end office furniture for contract, and no one's ever requested any kind of California hardwood, and we've really never used it. Our vendors do not offer it. You know, maybe to them it would be an exotic wood. But we're probably spending about $2 million a year in just our lumber. We would question it because before the furniture goes out, we want to make sure it's not going to come back. We need to be able to depend on, you know, if we order something, it's going to be here tomorrow. It'll be here in the format, the grade that we want it. Our lead times are so quick, you know, from when the order comes into the shop to when the furniture is at the end user. We don't have time to send veneers back. We would consider using California hardwoods if they were readily available, we had a consistent supply, if we had a demand for them, and the price point could match what we do right now.
Well, it's true. There has been poor quality native hardwood lumber that has gotten onto the market. A lot of mistakes have been made in the past, particularly in drying, because the people who were doing the manufacturing of the lumber didn't really understand the material and made some mistakes in the process. These hardwoods we have in California are difficult to dry, that's no secret, but we do know how to dry them. There are techniques that will give you high quality lumber if you're careful enough and follow some basic procedures. What we're doing at the Forest Products Lab is trying to get that information out to the people interested in the industry through a series of workshops, personal communications. We're talking about the drying process and how to avoid making some of these common mistakes. California hardwoods can be dried successfully, and we know how to do it.
Here at California Hardwood Producers, we have the capacity to dry between 80 and 100,000 board feet of lumber per month. We first carefully sticker the lumber, then air dry, first under cover in our air drying shed, then move it to the outside where we use the sun to help us to solar dry the wood. We then put it into our dehumidification kilns and complete the process there. We've been able to successfully dry both urban and forest product wood, including the California black oak, the madrone, and the tan oak.
Well, I've been cutting and drying hardwoods for 15 years, and I think California hardwoods have a real value and are very usable. And as a consequence, I have almost every hardwood that grows in the state I've been able to cut and dry successfully and make into fine furniture. Even today, after 15 years of cutting and drying madrone and using it in furniture, I still hear people say that madrone is not a hardwood, not a furniture grade hardwood, and that's you hear those comments about all of the native hardwoods, and it's really not true. All of the native hardwoods are usable. There's nothing unique or special about the hardwoods themselves. Our environment is a little more severe to dry them, and you have to be a little more careful than you would back east, but with a little learning and a little information, they are very doable. The process is very doable, very easy to cut and dry local hardwoods.